apprentice growing up. So, he used to come to me at Christmas for his 50 quid as a bonus and stuff like that. Should get that money back off him now, really, and stuff. But yeah, so John always says whenever he does stories about growing up as an apprentice at the club, that he got the raw end of the stick with me, because I was forever giving him stick, and I was a hard taskmaster apparently at the time. And but yeah, he obviously started playing in the reserves and stuff, and I didn't really get him playing in the first team because I'd left the club the year that he started training and playing with the first team. So I missed playing with him in the first team at Chelsea. Obviously, a tradition of players going out so younger players could get their opportunity that I'd had before me. Unfortunately for me, it was I left when he was coming through.
It's at that point where Jamaica go and qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Jamaica then, unexpectedly, first time in the nation's history, get a chance to represent at the FIFA 1998 World Cup. You're in that squad, you're in that team. Can you talk to me about the moment you realised that you were going to the World Cup?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a surprise, really, because I actually hadn't played in any of the qualifying games. But obviously, my parents are both Jamaican born and that, so I was following it just like the whole of my family were following it, how they were getting on in the competition. And at no time did it cross my mind that I could even qualify to play for them. It didn't cross my mind at all. I was just supporting them as a fan, as a British born Jamaican myself, seeing how well they'd really done. I knew there was a few English-based players that had played, the likes of Fitzroy Simpson, Paul Hall, Dion Burton, had represented them throughout the campaign to get them to qualification. And then, at the same time, I was still thinking that I had a realistic chance of still playing for England. I was playing in a team that was very successful. The year that we won the FA Cup that year, and then the year after that we won the League Cup where I scored in the final, and we won the Cup Winners' Cup that year as well. So, for me, I was thinking I can't be too far off playing for England if I keep this sort of format, playing in a team that's being successful. So it didn't really cross my mind to play for them until my agent basically rang me up one afternoon and said that Rene Samoes, who was the Brazilian manager of Jamaica, had been on the phone to him, and he was now looking at players like myself, like Chris Powell, who was playing at Charlton at the time, Robbie Earle, who was playing at Wimbledon at the time, Darryl Powell, who was playing for Derby County. He was looking at us players to improve his squad to go into the World Cup for the competition, and I was blown away at the opportunity. And I thought to myself, initially I thought to myself, well, how would I be received? Because obviously someone had done some hard work to get Jamaica to this qualification, that I could possibly be taking their place in the team. So I was a bit unsure about it at first, but what I did say to my agent was, let me speak to the manager and we'll see where it goes from there. And, I had conversations with Rene, and I remember him saying that he was going to fly over to England to watch me play for Chelsea against Derby County out here. And it was a game that he had highlighted because for Derby County would be playing Chris Powell and Darryl Powell, and Dion Burton obviously as well would be playing for Derby. And he said it was also an opportunity to see me play live for the first time. So he came over and he watched that game. I think we beat Derby 3-1 on the day, and I remember having quite a good game that day as well. So he spoke to me afterwards, the game, and he just said, I thought you were superb today, basically. I'm really interested in you representing Jamaica for the World Cup. And my first question to him was, what does the other players think about this? And he assured me that all the way through the campaign, he'd let them know that there was a possibility that there would be more English players that would join the group. So they was already aware and prepared for this anyway, if they did qualify. And he said, end of the day, for the best of the country, we want to bring the strongest team we can to the tournament, the strongest squad to the tournament. So I agreed to go and play. and wow, it changed my life a little bit, as in seeing things that, you know, I'd been to Jamaica many times as a young kid, where my mum took me back and stuff, you know, I remember from the age of 4 or 5, and I went regularly every couple of years. We'd go and see, you know, my grandfather out there, and etc. And going back there then to go and be a part of a massive culture in football. I didn't realise how important football was to the country, really. And you know, when I got off a flight from England to Jamaica, to Kingston, and there must have been about 25,000 people waiting in the airport just to greet me coming to the country, and I couldn't believe it. I felt it was like David Beckham stuff, do you know what I mean? Wherever he went, and it was unreal. So you couldn't go anywhere on your own for the following, and I realised that this is serious business there. They're taking it very seriously, and I'm going to have to bring, you know, my A game to represent the country in the friendly games, going up to the manager picking the squad that was going to go to the World Cup in France. So, you know, we had some tough games. I remember playing in America against Brazil, against Argentina in friendly games. We played the USA out there in front of like 120,000 people at the Orange Bowl Stadium and stuff like that. So the preparation was as good as you could get, really, for preparing for the World Cup. And, you know, I would never regret my decision to play in that, because it's a memory and an opportunity that I may never have got ever again. Being able to say that I played in a FIFA World Cup, and it was phenomenal times. I ended up playing, you know, over 30 games for Jamaica as an international, and obviously being in an important part of that squad that went and played in France.
Now, it's at that time, as you mentioned, Chelsea won the FA Cup. They won the Cup Winners' Cup as well. Yeah. Fantastic achievement for the club. Yeah. How do you feel when you look in the dressing room, or you hear the news that Marcel Desailly's just joined from AC Milan, Albert Ferrer's coming from Barcelona, into what you make as a winning team, so to speak? How did you take and handle that news?
I was, again, you know, looking forward to the new season coming along, especially with the likes of Marcel Desailly and people like that. I was thinking to myself, I'm going to learn so much from his experience of, you know, where he's played at massive clubs, AC Milan, etc. And, you know, I was really looking forward to that season. And we went away to, I think we went to Holland to play in a pre-season tournament, and I played all the games. I think there was like 5 friendly games before we went out there, and I played all the games with Marcel Desailly at centre half. Frank LeBufford just come back from the World Cup but had a slight injury, so he was obviously another person that I'd be competing with for a position in the team. Obviously Frank Leboeuf won the World Cup with France, and so did Marcel Desailly as well, so I knew there was, you know, it was going to be tough to get in the Chelsea team this year. And like you said as well, we signed Albert Ferrer, who was a Spanish international, just been signed from Barcelona as well, so I knew the 2 positions that I'm competing for places in the team were against one player that had just come from AC Milan, another player that won the World Cup, and another player that just come from Barcelona. So, you know, but I was prepared for that, because, you know, I believed in my own ability, and I knew what I brought to the table at Chelsea. And obviously, you know, the last game of the season before that I'd played in, I scored a goal at Wembley in the Cup final, in the League Cup final as well. So, you know, I thought, you know, for me there was a lot more silverware to win and be a part of at the football club. And then we came back from that tournament in Holland, and I got a phone call off of my agent again, saying to me that Leicester City had come in with a £3 million bid for me, and Chelsea had accepted it. I was really surprised, to be honest, because the last thing on my mind was leaving the football club after the success we'd had over the last 2 seasons, winning 3 trophies in 2 seasons. All I was thinking about was, you know, future honours and being a part of something special that was going to happen at the football club. And this was even post Abramovich. So I was just talking about this when Ken Bates was still in charge of the club. If I thought Abramovich was coming in, I probably wouldn't have gone anywhere. But there you go. But yeah, you know, I was disappointed that the club decided that, you know, that that I could leave, and I was able to speak to Martin O'Neill, and obviously, the writing's on the wall as whether you're going to be, in the team or not next season. And one thing that I'd always been used to since I'd been at Chelsea from the age of probably 20 to 21, when I broke into the first team, I'd played all the time under various different managers, and the thought of sitting around and being on the bench and being a bit part player, for me, it didn't appeal to me, to be honest with you. I'd always played, and I didn't feel that I would enjoy my football if I was, playing a game every now and then, or being on the subs bench quite regularly. So, I decided to go and speak to Martin O'Neill at Leicester City. And to be fair to him, he sold the club to me unbelievably, made me feel a massive importance to where he wanted to take Leicester City at the time, and he thought that with the right sort of players that we could sign for the football club, Leicester could go on to do great things. And I really bought into what he had to say about it. And then when you weigh up the two situations, the disappointment of being told that you can go if you want to speaking to someone that really is planning the future of the football club, with the likes of myself joining, it was easy for me to make a decision to join Leicester City at the time.
Leicester City, a very interesting project for yourself. You went on to have a very successful career there. In the back of your mind, are you always a Chelsea player? Are you always missing that what you've known in the past?
Yeah, well, you know what? It took me until I finished playing football that I realised that when I left Chelsea, maybe a bit of that passion for the game left me as well at the same time, because I'd always been, from the age of 11, I'd always known just Chelsea Football Club, and I was a fan from the age of 9. I joined the club at 11, went through all the ranks to get to a professional, and then obviously was able to achieve stuff at the football club and win things and have honours going away from the football club. And I probably wouldn't have recognised it at the time, because I just got on with working hard, doing the best I could for Leicester City. But I believe, when I left Chelsea, a part of my passion for the game and my willingness to play for one club and basically put my body on the line for one football club, I think that left me a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I thought I'd done really well for 6 years at Leicester City, but looking back on it and conversations that I had with people afterwards, you look back and you could probably agree with some people's take on how I was as a player when I played for Leicester than what I was like when I played for Chelsea. And probably a little bit of football was pulled out of me because of that transfer. And I've always been a Chelsea fan from a very young age, and I went to Leicester and I gave 100%, don't get me wrong. I was successful there. We won the League Cup there. We got to another League Cup final there, and we competed against the best teams in the country with a relatively small budget and no superstars in the team, but we had a team spirit that we played for each other, and that got us by. So it was a great time, and I don't regret my time there. But at the same time, I definitely thought that something left me in the passion side of the game when I left Chelsea.
What was Martin O'Neill like to work with? What was he like as a motivator, as a man? Was he a good manager for you as a player?
Yeah, 100%. I think he was good for everybody. I think the biggest what would I say? The biggest strength that Martin O'Neill had was his ability to recognise a player that would suit playing for his team. So he didn't just look at players and go, just judge them by their ability. I think you had to have a certain characteristics as well to play for Martin O'Neill, and you certainly had to be able to take some stick when things went wrong, because he didn't mix his words, Martin, in the four walls of the dressing rooms. If you had to be told about your performance, he would certainly tell you about it. He did lead with an iron rod, you could say, but in his own way, he got the best out of the players. He brought a lot of characters together. When you think of myself and Neil Lennon, Matt Elliott and Steve Walsh and Tony Cottee and people like that, we had a core of British players that all had our own strong characters.
Very hard-working team.
Yeah, very honest, hard-working team, and that mirrored, the way that Martin O'Neill played in his days for Nottingham Forest. Who he was obviously very successful, won 2 European Cups with Nottingham Forest, and he was a hard-working, honest player, and his team mirrored the way that he played and the way that he wanted his team to play. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed playing under Martin O'Neill. He was a motivator, not so much a tactical, you'd say a tactical genius, or someone that was in depth in the way that you wanted to play with a philosophy, but he certainly just got the best out of all his players, and you always wanted to give 100% for him.
288 Premier League appearances over 2 clubs for yourself, Frank. Fantastic achievement, fantastic career. Was there anything that you regret that you didn't do when you was at the top level of Premier League football?
Yeah, you look back at certain moments. I don't regret any of the way that I sort of like put 100% into games and stuff like that. I'd never go back and say, I could have tried a bit more in these certain games and stuff. I think most supporters that I played under at certain football clubs would always say I gave 100%, week in, week out. There was obviously certain times in your game you could have been a bit more, how would I say, professional. I think there was
preparation, maybe.
Preparation, yeah, exactly, a bit more professional. But we done, in them days, you used to go out quite a bit and enjoy the party life, and then mix that with working very hard and training hard and giving 100% on a match day. But certainly, where football's gone now, the preparation is key to performances, I think, now, and you couldn't get away with the way we acted in our day than you could do now, because the fitness levels and everything that you've got to be at are extremely high compared to when we were playing, when I was playing, certainly as well. But I don't have no real regrets. But there's a couple of individual things. I got sent home from the League Cup final against Tottenham for Leicester City by the manager the morning of the cup final, because I left the hotel and decided to go shopping down Harrods. I think if I could change that decision on the day, I'd probably go back to that one, stay in the hotel, and who knows, we lost 1-0 on that day, and many people thought that if I'd played we wouldn't have got beat, so that could have been another opportunity for me to win something. I was lucky enough to go back the next year and win it, and I remember having a conversation at Leicester Town Hall with Martin O'Neill at the time when we did win it the second time round. It happened to be sitting next to me at the table when we had to meet the mayor of Leicester, and he said to me, I might have made a mistake last year by sending you home, and if I didn't do that, maybe we would have won it twice on the spin, which would have been historic for that football club. And I appreciated his honesty there. End of the day, I went and done a bit of shopping. I was a London lad that was stuck in Leicester for quite a bit at the time, so I'd miss my little trips to Harrods every now and then. And if I could go back, I would say to any young player, stay in the hotel. But apart from that, no, I thoroughly enjoyed all of my career, really. Even when I went, as an older player through the leagues, and ended
playing for Burnley, going through Colwyn Bay, Hendon.
Yeah, I went from every level. So when I left the Premiership with Leicester City, I went and played for Burnley in the Championship for 3 years, and then I went on to Huddersfield, which was another big club that was playing in League One. And then
you have a spell at Lincoln as well.
Yeah, I went to Lincoln with Peter Jackson, who was manager of Huddersfield. He got the Lincoln job the next season, and he took me from Huddersfield to Lincoln. And then I ended up at Wickham under Peter Taylor, and got promoted back to League One with Wickham as well. So those days I was in my late 30s, really, 37, 38, and still playing at a reasonably good level. So I enjoyed even the latter stages of my career, being able to give back to younger players and help them out as well in forging their careers as players. And then obviously through that experience, it made me realise that I had quite a bit to offer, as I was hanging my boots up in going into coaching and management myself.
The way you played, you put your body on the line, you're fully committed, you're making tackles, you're making blocks, you are going to make mistakes. Was there a time where you thought, am I actually unlucky with own goals? You seem to go through a little phase in your career, a little spell, maybe a couple of month period where things seem to be like just happening to you in particular.
Crazy. I thought I'd smashed a few mirrors and walked past a few black cats, because there was a period where I think I played against Arsenal and scored an own goal against Arsenal. And then we played Chelsea at home the week after that, and I scored an own goal against Chelsea. 2 games, one of them we drew, one of them we lost because of the own goals, and I was just thinking, what is going on here? But I was quietly confident that I'd get through this because like I said, I was massively a believer in my own ability, and I knew how good and what else I was contributing to the games. And these were just unlucky situations that was highlighted massively because it was the Premiership. So I had to dig deep and believe in myself, and I had the backing of the team, the backing of the manager. He made quite a few jokes out of it. Like I think when I scored the goal against Chelsea, the second one, and they interviewed Martin O'Neill on Sky after the game, and he said, next game we're going to pick Frank up from corners or something like that. So he was light-hearted with it, and that was good for me because it didn't put me under pressure, going into next games. That was the brilliance of Martin O'Neill with the way that he handled situations. But no, I never doubted myself, even when I scored an own goal against Ian Walker, who was obviously an England goalkeeper from about 20 yards away, giving him a back pass, and he slipped and it went past him at Middlesbrough away. I ended up getting man of the match for that game. And things that people don't realise is the same seasons that those own goals were going in, I won Player of the Year at Leicester and stuff like that. So there was things that...
With the way you play, you're going to get these incidents.
Yeah, 100%. And I was always a type of player that if I'm going to score an own goal, it's going to be trying to stop the opposition from scoring. And if it goes in my own net, it goes in my own net, but I won't let the opposition score without me trying to stop it. So sometimes you get that wrong, but I wouldn't change that for anything because if you look over how many games I actually played and how many own goals I scored, it wasn't that many.
70 clean sheets as well, so you're doing something right.
Yeah, and obviously, as I got older, got more experience. I think I improved as a player, and probably, my best years were just leaving Chelsea as a player. I think I matured more between the age of 26 and 30. I think you come into your own in knowing the game and stuff. So I probably missed my best years at Chelsea, but obviously achieved my best moments in football playing for Chelsea.